Good evening, guys. How are you? It is Sunday night again, and it's time for another live stream. Well, another hour or so talking complete nonsense, which is the more reality of these things. I hope you are all safe and well. Let me just look at the numbers. Everything looks good. I hope we're all alive and well. Yes, that means I'm working. I can guarantee I know I'm working when Mark gives me nonsense. Let me just move the microphone into the proper place. Good evening. How are you doing? Good evening, DIY. Change, that's me, not you. on time for a change. Yes, I was on time tonight. Good evening, Brutus. Good evening, Bobby Bags. Type, good evening, all. Good evening, good evening, good evening. I hope you guys are all safe and well. Let me just move that. Sorry, that's going to make a bit of noise. I do apologise, but it was annoying me. Good evening, Peppermint Pilot, DJI FPV. So, tonight, guys, there's some stuff to talk about. Now, I'm not going to cover too much on what's going on this week. I've said everything there is to say on this. There's a video on the channel. I do want to talk a bit about the Cadex Polar, though. We might talk a little bit about this new air unit that's coming and what we do know on that. And it isn't a lot, to be absolutely clear. We're going to try and keep... It's been a bit of a long slog the last couple of months and weeks, and everything's turned a little bit negative is probably the term. And okay, we've managed to get some results, but in the end, I think there's a point where you become just a constant pain in the ass rather than anything else. So I think we're going to move on from a lot of the stuff now. I've done my bit, I think, on these things. There's not much more I can personally do now. So it is what it is. So we're going to talk a bit about the nebula, not the nebula. It's not a nebula. It's a polar starlight. And RC Shim's video, and JB's put another video up as well on about after his review, because he mentioned about latency, and I'm going to talk a little bit around that because I've been doing some tests myself with this. This is a highly technical piece of equipment. It's not, but it's an interesting piece of equipment, thus to say. We'll talk a bit about this. The Lightweight LiDAR, if you've ever come across this, there'll be a video on this coming in the next week or two. We'll talk a bit about the FPV build, the spectrum analyzer, and some other stuff as well. Now, as always, guys, because we're live, I'll answer any questions that you got. That's the primary reason for the live stream tonight. I'm going to try and keep tonight under control and try and do about an hour. I'd like to try and keep it under control. To be honest, I am exhausted after this week. So I want to try and just get this one over, put a nail in it and move on. It's been a really interesting week, but it's been an exhausting one as well. So just to answer some questions. Hello, Eat More Possum. Good evening, Brandon Beans. Have I tested at night yet? Not properly, because it pretty much rained all last week, and I haven't been able to fly this weekend at all. Now, to be honest, I'm really tempted to put my review up on it without bothering at night. I'm not really interested at night, and I tell you what, there's loads of great footage. I'm going to fly it at night, don't get me wrong. What I just mean is I might not cover it in the review simply because everyone else has. There's not a lot more I can say on that, really. Salmon Rose FPV, good evening, my friend. I hope you are safe and well. Good evening, all 45 of you. If you've got any questions, guys, please put it in. But yeah, it's been bad all week here. It really has. Type, Ragsnuts fulfilled your mission to blow up 2 LiPo batteries in short into those they fired up. Yeah. So anyway, guys. So the first thing is to talk about this. And let me just put it up. Which is, oh, I've not got the camera in the corner. Let me turn that on as well. Boom, there we go. Is the Cadex Polar Starlight. Now, JB's video, and I've never spoke to JB. He came in the chat here and caused trouble one day, which was fantastic, but I've never had the privilege of talking to him direct. I know he said he found that there was latency on it, and a couple of people commented, well, they hadn't seen it and stuff like that. And RC Shim has now put up a video saying, was Bardwell wrong? Cadex Polar review, latency tested. And RC didn't really find any issues. Let me just mute that. And he also tested it on his test rig. Now, I seen him have this test rig before, and it was one of those little jobs I wanted to do myself, and we'll talk about that in a minute because I have today. And he hasn't seen anything particularly unusual. Now, the thing I do want to add on this is, I don't think there's any question that JB had latency, because if anyone's hands will feel it, and if eyes will feel it, it's that man's. Brandon Beans, I love it when GB crashes on the YouTube streams. Yeah, he is a hero when he does that. I do, he really is. But RC Shim has done his test and he couldn't find a problem. Now, JB's put a video up just to say, look, I said how it was. Perhaps my camera's faulty. I think in all of this is what you've got to take into account is if JB felt it, he felt it. There's no reason for him to say that otherwise. So I think the next thing to understand is what was causing that, because I think he said he tried it on 2 airframes and then he went over to another camera and didn't feel it. And yeah, something strange, something really strange is going on there. And what we know, what you can almost say is it isn't JB. So it'll be interesting if he's got a faulty module. Does he have a bad camera? Is there something causing it? And RC Shim does this great little latency test where he does it on an oscilloscope. And I built a very similar unit today, which we'll talk about a bit more in a minute. Let me just put it there, and he shows it up on there as well. And we'll take a look at mine in a second because I've done something similar. Now, it'll be interesting to see what the outcome is of this, because I don't think anyone can question JB's not had it. I'll be interested. Is it a setting change? Because I do know JB had the board where you could change brightness and contrast. So is this something around settings there? Has he changed something that causes the camera to behave differently? Is it a firmware quirk? I don't know. I haven't got that board yet. I have ordered it from CADX. Cost me $8. But I haven't had that yet. Yeah, JB's just going to ship it to him, because I think JB asked Mario to check his out. It wasn't as simple as Mario just doing it. JB has investigated. It might be easy to maybe just... It's weird. It's just strange. It's a weird one. But what I can say is this. So in my tests, I didn't really find any great latency, but I'm not, I'm not JB. I'm not an out-and-out super freestyle pilot. So yes, I can feel latency, but I'm certainly not feeling it at the level necessarily that they are. But if it was enough to feel, I would think I would see it. Now, today, I've built my own test rig. Let me just take a sip of my coffee. And that is for testing end-to-end latency from camera to goggles. Now, the way this rig works, and let me just grab the drone, the aircraft, is, and I spent a bit of time looking at this as well, is you have an LED that is going on the camera lens, which you cover it over completely. And then what I've set up is an LDR, a light-dependent resistor, that goes in the goggles, which goes on the displays. You black both sides out, and the idea is, I've set it up. So what happens is when I press this button on here, so let me just put this to overhead so you guys can see. Let me get the drone out of the way. When we press this button under the heat shrink here, what this does, that fires voltage to the LED, which sets the LED off. Okay? Attached to this button is also an empty wire, which is a measurement which goes on the probe one on the oscilloscope. So that is our trigger point. At the point I press the button, that triggers the oscilloscope to say, take a shot, and that fires the LED. Then, on this side of it, is the LDR. Let me just bring that back. Here we go. LDR, that goes in the goggles. And then there's another trigger here, which is the input for number 2. Now, the theory is about this is the way the idea works is you're going to get a reading of the end-to-end latency of a system. Now, there's a lot of complication around this. Let me just put this back up around frame rates, because remember, every frame is roughly at 60 frames a second. It's roughly 60 milliseconds. And it depending on the rasterization or how the goggles are actually flowing through on, you know, for instance, the camera will be global shutter. For the most part, most of the FPV cameras are global shutter, so the camera is going to take it as a full hit. However, are the goggles doing a global write, or are they actually writing in PAL or NTSC, line by line, and all of that nonsense? So depending on where you are, you could get a 16 millisecond gap, which would affect the latency. However, I believe, and this is my firm belief, that doing run-to-run variance tests, so say you do it 10 times, if there was any variation that was throwing the latency test out, it would show in the run-to-run variations, and if you average the run-to-runs, you should be bang on. Now, I have done some tests on this today, which I'm going to show you some pictures of. I haven't got any video because I haven't got that far yet, but I have done it. Now, I was doing it first of all on the DJI FPV system, because the good thing with the DJI FPV system is that it has the latency measurement on display, and that is known to be accurate. It has been independently tested to be good. So it's really handy to test that. Now, let me bring up some screenshots. I'm going to show you what it looks like. Now, that's not the one I want. Let me just find the one I want. I think the one I want is number 5. Yes, it is. Okay, so what we've got on the screen here is one of the screen captures off the oscilloscope at the point of me pressing the button. So, just to zoom in. Okay, so I'm covering it a bit with my camera, but it doesn't matter. When I'm covering, you don't need to miss. So, okay, so we've got 2 traces, trace 1 and trace 2. So trace 1 is the button off. Okay, nothing happening. There's a voltage variation, but don't worry about that. It's not relevant. Okay. At this point here, this is the moment I press the button, and that triggers the oscilloscope to capture the image. So you can see there is a rise, and at the moment I think this is set to 2 millivolts, so it's a rise of 2, 4 and a bit volts. Okay, actually it's less than that, because they're 2, 3.5. It's actually about 3.5 volt, because it's set up to go onto a 1S of a light bulb, basically. So that is the point. The trigger happens and the LED fires. Then the blue, which is bumbling along here, is the light level being detected by the LDR in the goggles with the LED off. And then what you can see, not at the point of trigger, but at this point here, a shift in the voltage, which is the light level changing. Now, the thing to understand with the LDR is the LDR is very fast to react to big light change. But remember, when the light's going to go off on the goggles, it's going to sort of come in bright. There's a slight delay to it. So this is the light level building in the goggles, and this is minuscule amounts of time here. Then you see it hump up and come back down. Now, what this bit here is, this hump, and this is a really little interesting bit. This is the AGC kicking in on the camera, the automatic gain control. So this is the bright light. It's a flashlight in the eye of the camera. Think about it that way. And then the camera's automatic gain control is going, oh my God, that's bright, knock it down. And that pulls it back down. But the interesting thing about this is the amount of latency here. From this center line here to this point here is the system end-to-end latency. The point of pressing the button to the point of the light level first changing on the goggles. And that is actually the latency at that point there. Now, let me just put my chat back up so I can see it as well. Now, if I show you the next image, I've actually put up on this the markers so you can see what that latency is. So again, we've triggered the camera, it's kicked off at this point here, and then what we've put is marker A, cursor A, at the point of the light level trigger changing at the goggles, which is exactly 31 milliseconds, and that is exactly what was being shown on the DJI goggles. So what we then have is an end-to-end latency measurement from the point of pressing the button and triggering the LED to the point of that light level changing in the goggles. So this method works. As far as I'm concerned, having run tests and tests and tests today, this is giving me consistent results overall. There is a little bit of variance here and there, but overall I'm seeing consistent results. Now, there is a lot more to this. Yes, I did, Bruce, and it's instantaneous when the LED is connected. So, did I test the latency time of the LDR without the FPV system? Yeah, it's instant. It's not even readable on the display, on the scope. It's that fast. I was surprised how fast it was. It's not even readable. It's instant. Depending on the light changes with the frame gesture. Yes, and that's the problem. But yeah, I don't think it's really not. Like if we say, Bruce, one frame is 60 milliseconds at 60 frames a second. Even if you were to catch it at the worst possible time, it could add, say, 16 milliseconds. But if you do it on run-to-run variances, so if you do 10 runs, you should be able to average that out. I'm not really seeing any more than a 2 to 3 millisecond variance. And to be honest, right, the interesting thing is on the bench with the DJI FPV system, it is literally bang on to that display. It really is. What that display is saying, I'm seeing that reflected in the scope output as well, which is really quite impressive. It's not perfect. There is question marks. There is question marks over, because if you think of the camera as a global shutter, so the camera, in theory, the camera should be fine. The real issue will be, and this is it. I've been wanting to build this for a while, if I'm honest. I really have. And it's one of those things, I was talking to a few people about it, and I thought, I'm going to do it this morning. I had a couple of hours free, and I did it. And the first images really weren't very clear. The first few I did, it was very noisy indeed. It really was. I'll upload them now and I'll show you guys. But I've managed to clear this up a hell of a lot this afternoon. So the interesting thing is, I'm seeing no issues with the latency, but this is a really interesting subject because it's going to allow us to test the latency of cameras nice and easily moving forward. In some ways, the latency being actually accurate is not majorly relevant. Run cam cardboard over the camera. I think it's important to put a run cam cardboard over the camera LED. It's as much as difference between cameras. Now, obviously, always remember with DJI, it's variable latency. So on the bench, it's going to behave differently to at range. And Mario did try it with a very, very, very long piece of cable. Yeah, that's the difference if you put the piece of run cam over it. Yeah. And I have been trying to come up with a way of doing this at range. And I have come up with an idea, which would be a wireless trigger, which also has an Arduino at the other side, or a Raspberry Pi at the other side, to log the moment the LED fires. So if you synchronize the LED firing, when you get the data back, you synchronize the LED flying. Don't forget extra 300 nanoseconds of foot per distance. Yeah. What I was thinking of was the second you get the LED firing on both sides, as long as you synchronize that point, then the latency accuracy will be correct. Now, as Bruce says, the actual latency in the radio is so small. Small. Is it really going to make a difference? But, this works. This may look like a barrage of mess, and I've tidied this up, I promise you. But this actually really does work, and that's the images from it today. And as you can see, if you can see in the background, the scope's still on a frozen image. Now, I am going to put a full video out showing this, because a couple of people have sort of... a couple of people have said, well, you're not going to get 100% accuracy and you're going to get variances. At the moment, the variances I'm getting are very low. They really are low. Let me just bring up Qfile. And I'm just going to upload the images from the earlier ones, because there were some earlier that weren't in the early part of it. It wasn't particularly great. You have been racing, man. You have to. I agree, Bruce. I do think, and this is the interesting thing. I do think for JB to have felt the latency as well, there must have been some there. So I would be really interested to figure out what that is. Now let me just add these uploads onto here, and I'll show the early traces. Now the early ones weren't direct screenshots. The early traces were very much photos of the screen, which I'll show you now. Quick to latency, my brain. Bruce. But yeah, now my original plan with this was not to use an LDR. My original plan was to use a photodiode. I've ordered 5 of them. I spent £6 on them. It's like anything in electronics these days, right? The component's like 60p. It cost me £3 in postage to get it here. Now, when I first did this earlier, I was getting all sorts of noise and issues and stuff like this, and it wasn't working well at all, I will be honest. And I thought, well, perhaps I need a photodiode, not an LDR, because LDRs don't react very fast. I didn't think an LDR reacted very fast until you put the two together. It is instantaneous. It is literally instant. And I was astonished. Now, the problem to take into account when you are doing this is, remember, there's always a level of backlight on the goggles. So even when you've blacked out the camera, especially with the Polar, because it's a night camera, it always wants to put some form of image there. And then the brightness that comes through is nowhere near the intensity of the brightness that you get on the direct LED into it. And then the AGC kicks in. But the AGC does take a second to kick in. So, so far, the tests have made it... the tests have made it look like it is correct. Now, let me just bring that up. So, let's see, that's the problem is there. Yeah, that's the big issue with DJI, is that the latency does move around. Okay, so just to share with you guys some of these. Right, okay. So just to put some of these. So this is to show you, this was very early days. This is this morning now. So this is how I started this morning. You can see the image with a lot more noise, okay, at this point. So again, the same principle is there. It's very much just measuring the point of change. That was the same. This is just a closer in image of that one. This is one of the new images. Let me just get through these. This was me again, tidying it up. Where are they? Why aren't they in order? Start there. So this is the latest view. This was another one. This was like one of the very early images. Look how rough that is. Trying to understand where the shift in light change was at that point. This is again one of the early ones. I'm now thinking this is really not working. This is not good enough to see. And to be fair, you can see it. If you do look, I can see the point again. 30 milliseconds. That was what DJI was saying at the time. Again on that image there, and then I started to get it more tidy and started to get it clearing up, and then I managed to sort of get it to that stage there where I'm looking at going, okay. And this involved having a resistor circuit, as actually a resistor capacitor filter circuit in it as well, just to clear the data up a little bit. So yeah, we've built a camera latency test rig. I believe it's accurate enough. Just catching up on the chat. Bruce, I start to notice later the early analog cameras use a lot of image processing. They were compared to the 15. What's missing to make the FPV drone camera, Lee? Missing from what? I say to see jumps. Yeah, well, that's what I've now done. So the LDR circuit is actually voltage, LDR, resistor to ground, off that resistor to a capacitor, doing a clearing circuit as well. Good evening, Bruce. Nice Roma F5. I am in the process of building the Roma F5. That's going to be the DJI FPV build. Can noise from ambient light change or weak cable connections? The ambient light's the big issue. So there was some issues touching any of this because it does add in noise. Because if you do take into account the voltage measurement difference is very, very low on that side. You know, we're shifting to like 4 volt on the one side, but we're down to about, I think it was 200 millivolt on the other scale. 100 millivolt. So we're talking a very, very small amount. You know, just to put that back up, we are talking 100 millivolt on this. So number 2 is set to 100 millivolt increments. So that's 100, 200, 350 millivolt of movement. But it's very crisp and clear now. You know, you can see that. And one of the early problems I was having was the effect that was having on the button. So when I was pressing the button, there was an automatic effect to line 2 because it's one power source. And at one point, I thought I might have to change the power source from the LED onto the other side because I was actually getting it affected. And you can see that in a couple of these images here. If you notice here, there's a change, and that is because the power source was affecting it. It's a better image showing that. That's the Roma. Look, that video is coming Tuesday. One of these should show it a bit better. That one there, right? And this is interesting. On this one, I actually think this area here, from there to there, was actually the effect of the power source. But we got it sorted. It took a bit of work. It works, and I think it works fairly well. Sorry, I'm losing my windows. Where are we? So yeah, and I'm going to be. The interesting thing is, yes, it would be nice to have an accurate measurement of latency. However, what's more interesting as well is, as long as you know a baseline, which is, say, the DJI camera, you can say if the other cameras are better or worse. And that's the interesting thing about it. So, maybe resistor. Now then, good evening, Gary. Nice Roma F5, thank you. Noise come from that. I have 2 DJI FPV cameras. I'm expecting better camera for the V2 goggles. I'll wait for the silicon chip shortage. I don't think we're ever going to get a camera that's better than the original DJI or the Caddx Nebula Nano. Those two are pretty much the pinnacle of what you're going to get, because the system is still limited to 1080p. The DVR is still limited. You know, it's not a GoPro. So your baseline for cameras is always going to be those original DJI ones. The Nebula Pro as well for image quality, that sort of area. Nebula Pro was better, but the DJI ones, you remember the Nebula Pro wasn't 1080p. The Nebula Pro was still 720p. So overall, you know, you've got to take into account the Nebula Pro was 720, but 120 frames a second, whereas the DJI cameras will do the 1080p image recording on the DVR at low latency. So they're the sort of pinnacle. The Nebula Pro had really nice image quality, but, you know, they're about the peak of where we're going to get. Elements is back. Hooray! Steve Mann, or film with the whole setup with a phone at 1,000 frames per second and flip a light and count the frames. Yes, that's how other people have done it. That is how others have done it. You need a good camera to record. A phone camera at 1,000 frames a second. I wouldn't even trust a phone camera at 1,000 frames a second. You need a proper slow camera. Would a GoPro be good enough at 240? I'm not even sure. Our chip shortage has no chip shortage. Looks like a bit bad. Yeah, look, there is a real chip shortage. Source Cadex from putting out another time. They didn't in the past. There's no reason. Okay, Cadex's biggest problem right now is chip shortage. That's why we have a shortage of cameras. Okay, I have been talking to them this week, and I'm not going to go into details, and I'm not going to go into why. You can guess why I've been talking to them this week, as on my mission to upset every company that there is. And they are, as everyone is, suffering major issues with the chip shortage. Now, this does lead on very nicely to the new ear unit. Now, you guys have seen the video. I'm not going back over that whole thing. Yes, we've got a bit of a result this week. Gary sent some very kind words. This is a double-edged knife for me, because whilst we've got a result on them not encrypting cameras, that wasn't really the goal. The goal of the message I put out wasn't to stop them encrypting cameras. I really wanted them to start developing the system more. Okay, we've got a result on them no longer doing that, but that wasn't the goal for me personally. The goal was, if you read the statement I put out, the statement said, it's a shame they can't put as much time and effort into developing the system and fixing bugs as locking out competitors. Now, I'd rather they'd fixed all the bugs and locked the cameras out. That would have been a preferred option for me. But look, they've done a U-turn. It's not so much I forced their hand, it's a community effort. But on the flip side of this, there's been a lot of amazing comments from you guys, and I really appreciate it. It's a community effort. I rattled the cage, as did a few others, but it was a community effort. But then there's also the backlash that you get with this stuff as well. And I don't mean from Cadex, and I don't mean from DJI. You know, I've had some people saying I only did it just to get clicks. I only do these things to... why am I always negative about DJI right now? Why am I always... You know, and someone put a really genuinely good comment on the channel, and he's a person who's followed me on and off for years, and he's been around on RC groups and stuff. And he said, it's a bit of a shame everything's been negative recently. And whilst I know that gets the views, and that's never why I did it. That it was never, ever about the views. This was about trying to get the result for the community. But the second people think that, that's when I start to think, okay, I now need to stop. Do you know what I mean? This is okay. Enough is enough. This isn't about... You've also got to be careful that you do also want to be able to work with these companies as well, and calling them out all of the time. You know, this is the third time I've been a complete pain in the ass for them. So I also, you know, okay, I'm on no Christmas card list of DJI or Cadex, I would imagine. It's about putting the finger in the wound to get the healed, and you did it. Yeah, you know. Yeah, I can't comment on that, Brandon Beans, because that is not something either side will discuss. And I'll just say it that way. They won't even entertain a conversation around that. What I will say is, and I agree with you, based on Cadex's statement, they appear to have a lot more involvement than I originally thought on the development side as well. And that is the case. Now, what I will say is this, and whether I should or not, I don't know, but they are looking at canvas mode, and that is a direct result of all of the feedback, a conversation with me, who put them in touch with a gentleman who is a developer who has done it before. And he is an amazing person. I've dealt with him on and off for various other things. I'm not going to name him yet because it's not for me to do that. I'll let them do that. But I have played a small part on that, and I'll take a little bit of credit for that, a tiny bit. And that is simply the conversation was speed, and then we had a talk, and then I told him, go speak to this guy. And look, I sent that guy an email, And they then went and contacted him, and then he said to me, are these who they say they are? And then it was all a bit of a fun circle, let's just say. But I know there's some talks going on. Now, I will be honest, and this is me being blatantly open and honest. I'm shocked they put that in their statement already. Bearing in mind, all of this started this week, from what I understand. I only spoke to them Wednesday. So I'm shocked they were brave enough to put that out there as quickly as they did, that element of it. I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have said a word, because I wouldn't have. I had no interest in spilling the beans on that until it happened. So I'm surprised they did. I'm very surprised they did that. So, but they've done it. They've told everyone they're working on it. So be it, and we'll see where it goes. But for me on this whole thing, hi, good evening, hi Taff. We've got a result. I would have preferred the result to have been, we're going to work on all of the bugs, and yes, we're going to encrypt cameras, but we're going to try and work with the community. So we're going to have to see. But what the interesting thing in this is, and the information I had from DJI and the other side, was this air unit change was not to do with encryption. That is happening anyway as a result of the global chip shortage. We don't know what it is. We don't know what chips are short. It's been alluded to me. You won't see the difference on the new air unit to the old one, so I don't know what that means. We will know when it comes out. We will know, because within a couple of weeks it will be out. The firmware's out, so the hardware must be in production today. There's no way they'd have put the firmware out for the new air unit yet if the hardware wasn't in production. So I'm guessing it's already heading to retail channels. So I wouldn't be shocked if air units that ship any bit from now from Cadex, Vistas, because remember it's Vistas, it's air unit lights, of this new upgraded hardware. We don't know what the model number is. There's been no FCC filings for a version 2, so it must be a really minor change. You can't buy anything. You just cannot buy anything. And I do note, look, the interesting thing with this is Cadex, okay? I'm not going to say what the conversations I had with them were, but they were really friendly. They might be peeved with me in the background, but they were really, really friendly. And the person that reached out to me seems really great, fantastic. We had some really nice chats. We've shared a bit of information as well. I've shared a bit on that, and I've shared a bit on this latency testing as well, just because I was doing it. Now, they are wanting to sell you stuff. They are a business. They really want to sell you stuff. And at the moment, they're being hindered by the global shortage. So don't think they don't want to have Nebula Pros, all of these cameras on the shelf, because they really do. But everyone's in a massive, massive battle right now on this. A massive, massive battle. It's not just Cadex, it's everyone. And it's affecting all digital cameras as well. There is a theory, and this is a theory, that this hardware changes to allow them to use a different chipset, but we don't know if it's true on the camera, to allow them to get different functionality, because the only way they can actually connect the cameras to get the full functionality is using the AP1302 chipset. Now, if that's the sourcing problem, and bearing in mind that's the chipset in most of these cameras that have the camera controls, then it would make sense that they did a hardware change to allow them to use something else. That might be it, but they haven't said. But don't be under any illusion. Cadex want your money, and they do want to be able to sell you stuff. So they're in a difficult position. Okay, I hope that explains that. So we're gonna have to see with the air unit. So it would make sense. Yeah. I'm just wondering if it's a slight data change or hardware change, something like that. No issues with the QC. Joins comments at the chance to set it fully, but feels great. Cool. Okay, very good. So it might be a one-off molding issue with this gentleman's then. That's good to know. Stopwatch. Yeah. Good evening, Lee Kitchen. I think I've said hello to you already. Join us, Gary's here. Victor Bayo, Pixhawk Error, IO, B&E, B&E. Just explain that a bit more, mate. You still have a lot of fun throwing frames. Just bought a brand new LG units. Yeah, I bet there are. I bet there are, Johnny. I really do bet there are. So, for me, and this is probably my last comment on this whole situation, it's over. I've done everything I can do. I've probably burnt every relationship bridge I could have had with these guys. We'll have to see where all of this ends up. My plan is to not get in the middle of any more of this controversy for a while at the very least. I don't want to be at the eye of the storm for a bit. I'd like to get back. That one comment someone did say to me was, everything on your channel is negative recently, and it's a comment which I've taken a little bit to heart. So my plan is we'll let some, look, there should be no major bugs right now. We've just got to wait and see what happens. So really for me now, I've done that for a while. We've had a few battles. I'll get through the other side of it, and we'll see what happens. I paid $250 though. Ooh, that's a lot of money, Johnny, for an E unit. Is that with the DJI camera, the original DJI? Bruce got heaps. Can't wait to give them away. Have you got a Nebula Pro, Bruce? I'm after a Nebula Pro. I never bought one. I haven't got one. Can you program a failsafe as robust as DJI in Betaflight? No. Not in Betaflight, Ben. iNav is better. Betaflight failsafe is horrendous. Although, to be fair to it, Betaflight failsafe did work for me the other day, but the landing is just horrendous. You lucky boy. Have a look if you've got a Nebula Pro. I'd love to borrow a Nebula Pro if anyone's got one. I'd love to own it. I'll buy it, but benefit from this? Yes, they sort of do, but you've got to Brutus, what you've got to understand is they don't like being called out quite the way I have done. It's not always. I'm in Bruce's territory now. Where look, I'm not afraid to upset people, but as Bruce will openly say as well, and I think Bruce, you'll agree with this, companies don't always like it when you go about doing these things this way, or when you say exactly what you think. I'm upset they're selling the V2 new style camera with the ear units, but not selling them alone. Yeah, weird, isn't it? That they don't sell the and I think that's shortage of stock. I think the only reason they're not selling the micro as a standalone is because they just don't have enough of them. My micro is up there. I've taken it off a minute because I've put the polar on, and I think that's the reason they do it. But you better get it back. Yeah, and you need to take control before it lands. Okay, that's the term I'll use. Okay. Brendan Bean's weird. You mean dollars? I think that's the reason, Cadex. For a DJI camera, you wouldn't want my DJI camera. Mine's a bit battered. Mine's a pre-release with the threads have worn on the aluminium. I would do you a deal on that, my friend, but you don't want mine. Hand on heart, it's been ruined. Stop before flying into the water. Yeah, mine did the other day. Funny enough, Betaflight, but the whole landing near thing, because it was coming back in, and I thought, oh, this looks good, and then it was looking for an area that was enormous, absolutely, because it sort of crashes, doesn't it? It's return to crash, not return to home on Betaflight. Yeah, I've never been brave enough to let it land, ish. You would want a full empty open field for it to come down in. I haven't, Betaflight. Beta flight. It's a bit of a... Nick's got a video on it. GPS rescue needed in beta flight. So what do they say? I'm trying to remember what they say. Yeah, you may as well fly INAV. Look, don't... Beta flight is great. However, unless you're out and out amazing, INAV will do good enough. What it is not a full return to home. That's the first words they say. Look at this. What it is, GPS rescue intended to be called back autonomously in the case of emergency loss video. The only purpose is bringing back into range so you can retake control. So that is the goal, for you to retake control. It is not meant to be a reliable return to home. It does work, though. It does work. I do wish, Mad Manix FPV, 100% right. I do wish they would put effort into this now. It does feel lapse on the dev team. And I don't mean that nastily, but come on. Just give us return to home. Let's just do it so it lands within 2 or 3 meters of us. Please. Do you know what I mean? Requirements, disclaimer, prerequisite, setting up GPS rescue, which I've got done. Arming, rescue not available, common pitfalls. Do they talk about how it lands? Oh, that's a pretty good idea. INAV would probably be the best way to go. But you can't really do good return time with a compass. Just curious with that one. Yeah, but you could do both, couldn't you, Bruce? You could put it in that if you had a compass, you can have full GPS, because the modules are no more expensive now with a compass on board. It's auto soft land. Yeah, beta flight. Mine was just all over the place the other day. All over the place. ATEC 5238 with compass. Yeah, they are, and they're cheap as chips now. These things are cheap as chips. Beta flight, GPS rescue, GPS. Doesn't it do like a circle? I was reading a thing on it that it does quite a big circle. What's this, Oscar? Yeah, Oscar's got it in here. Does he say what it does? Activating it. What happens when GPS mode is activated? It's not going to be a smooth cruise. It may jiggle left to right. It won't stop exactly where you took off. Reaches a decent distance from home, and then it will start to descend and land. Mine started just going around in big orbits when I had it going the other day. It was just doing around, and it was like coming down, and my problem was it was going to twat a hedge. So I was a bit concerned. Brandon Beans. Where are these power flight stacks? What are these low power flight stacks? It was quite weird. It was quite concerning because it was also building up pace, Bruce, as well. So I was like, I'm taking this back now. I do need to do it properly. In the middle of a field, in the middle of nowhere, and let it do it. Just to see it with my own eyes. But as they've said, the idea is to let it return itself. So that's the situation. We don't know what's happening with this ear unit. The belief with the new ear unit is it's a hardware revision due to chip shortages. We're going to have to wait and see. Cadex want to sell you more cameras. They appear to be working on a lot more than we thought. Let's see where they go. Cadex want to do stuff. They want to be involved. They want to do stuff. So it's interesting times. Interesting times. So, now, did I talk about this last week? I've had this in this week. Now, there's a video coming on this in 2 days, but I will show you guys. There it is. This is the new ear unit for Sharkbite. Let me get that off because that's whiting out. No, it isn't. That's not the new ear unit. That's the old ear unit for Sharkbite. This is the new ear unit for Sharkbite. I also had these in this week. I ordered one of these, and I don't know if you guys have seen this. Oh, that's whiting out really bad, isn't it? I might have to drop the light on that. Right there. Also looks out of focus as well, doesn't it? Ooh. That's a bit better. I also had the new this new Hobbywing flight stack come in this week, which is a nice piece of kit. To be fair, this is going in the third build that I'm working on at the same time, which is the this is going to be the Sharkbite build. So I don't know if you've seen this. This is a 20/30 mil kit as well. So we've got ESC and flight controller. Now the interesting thing is on these you can snap the corners off. So you can put it onto 30x30 or 20x20 and snap the corners off. No, this won't run Ardra This is Betaflight, this one. But listen, you know, this kit is so cheap. It's ridiculous. It's like £50, £55 for the 40 amp 4-in-1 ESC and flight controller. It is ridiculous. Yes, Bruce. How cheap it is. You know, it is a bargain. So you get the flight controllers, you get all the cables and everything. You know, 55 quid. It's an absolute bargain. It really, really is. So yeah, I've had one of them in this week. But anyway, I've also had in the most awkwardest named product I have ever had on the bench. And hand on heart, right? I took about 20 attempts to be able to say TX5R.1. Who named it that? Who named this thing that? It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. But anyway, this is the new VTX for Sharkbite. This is the new race edition. There's a full overview of this coming on the channel tomorrow to show you guys through it, just to show you what it's like. But I thought I'd just give you a sneak peek of what it looks like now. It's 200 milliwatts. It supports smart audio, and that's the real benefit of this one. So over the others, and if we, you know, because they've got the Whoop board, they've got the let me just bring them out. I think they're still only on 2, aren't they? Sharkbite. Let me just remind myself. I'm trying to remember what they labelled them both as well, because you've got Learn More. Only 200 milliwatts, yes. So, okay. So, you've got the TXM.1, which is the standard ear unit. So, that's the one I've got here. Now, this is out of a frame at the moment. So, that's the standard ear unit. That's the TX5M.1. Then they do the TX5S.1. Their naming scheme, honestly. There you go. That's the Whoop board. TX5S.1. And then this is the TXR5R.1. What naming? Why do they name them this way? Now, put it on that one. Now, this is the new race board. Now, yes, it is a bit of a funny shape, and I know some people are going to complain about this. 20x20 mounting pattern, okay? 20x20. We've got UFL antenna connector. Now, the nice thing about this UFL connector, let me get this camera in a bit more for you. 1 second. There we go. I've just told it to zoom. That's the maximum zoom I've got a minute where it is. So we've got a UFL. But this UFL also comes with a plate that you can put over the top to stop it getting ripped off the board, or you can put a cable tie through it, a very small one, and that's why there's 2 holes next to it. You've obviously got the MIPI connection over here, and they've got a new camera coming soon. You've now got a proper harness connection for the wiring, but you've then also got the pinouts underneath as well. Now, the biggest issue with this board will be whether it will fit in your frame. And this is the very problem I have come up against right now. So, this is the frame, the board was meant to go into. This is quite an older Thug FPV. Does anyone remember the Thug FPV frames? Anyone remember them? Any Thug FPV? Anyone? Let me just grab my plates for it. Oh, yes. You want thickness? These are, let me just remind myself. I'll just tell you how thick the legs these are. 4mm plates. 4mm arms, 2mm center plates. They are thick. I still find my Thug 180 on the... This thing is a solid frame, and I rescued it out of a cupboard the other day, and I was like, oh man, I'm going to use this. Are they still going? Is Thug still making frames? There you go. And the top plate always made me laugh because it had that on it as well. Are they still going? I don't know. So the plan was to use this frame. However, I have a problem. And that problem is that I've removed 2 of the standoffs, which meant need to be here and here, because the way this frame is designed, didn't it come with a KK2? I had it as a frame only. It's a few years old. Now, the design of the frame is a bit strange because this goes over these mounting posts here. Right. And then it's meant to sit on either the posts there or the posts here. Because obviously there's no support there. Now, the problem is this board is too damn long. Too damn long. This thing, if it goes there, it hits the supports on the back, and it doesn't leave me then enough space for the second. As old as my city tank. It's a great solid frame though, isn't it? I thought it was in a drawer, and I was like, I need to rebuild this. I need to rebuild it. So the plan was for this to become my Sharkbite frame, but I don't think it's going to happen. I just don't think I'm going to be able to do it without a lot of work. A lot of work. It's so... I do have... I believe I've got a Speedy B frame coming to review. Dremel, 2-litre bottle of water, Pinot. A ZMR 250. I'll have a ZMR 250. Is that the old one, the ZMR 250? I'll definitely have one of them in the drawer. Is that one of the old ones, the ZMR 250s? Oh, is the ZMR 250 one of the current ones? Yeah, I definitely have an old one. I've got some all sorts of old diatones in there and all sorts. So, yeah, I don't think slap it to the top plate above the camera on there. It's not very protected. Although, now you've said that. See, like, it won't go in the gap. If it went in the gap, I could have put it to the bottom of that. But it won't even go in the gap. This was like lightning when I built it last time. So, yeah, it just doesn't fit anywhere on this board. The only thing I could do is mount it sideways. But then there's not a lot of protection. Pretty holder underneath. possible. Could do that. But then you're asking for real potential problems should it crash. You know, this is an £85 board. So, you know, I would like it to live there somewhere, if I'm honest. Get some thinner arms. It's a great frame, though. This thing is like a brick. He used to do a frame called a pig as well, didn't he? I'm sure he used to do a frame called a pig. Yeah, that's the only other option I did think is adapt. It's got to be adapted down anyway. Now, I have started printing a soft isolation mount for 30x30, and I'm just going to redo it in 20x20. Where is it? In TPU. I've been doing a lot of TPU printing this week. It's a ping pong ball. Where is it? Where's me TPU mount? I've lost it. It's vanished. I started building. That's annoying. Where's that gone? I hate it when things disappear. I had printed a TPU mount. Put it back up. I had printed a 30x30 TPU mount. Might do a 20x20. Like a sofa going through the door vertically. Yeah. Unfortunately, it's got low standoffs at the back, but it could go vertically there at the front, right by the FPV camera. But, it just doesn't want to fit in this board. Pig dog, I had a few. Yeah, I remember they did a few. It really doesn't want to go in this frame, no matter what I do. But that's the new board. Now, the overview of it's coming tomorrow. You guys have pretty much had it already, so you won't need to see it. But that's the new 200 milliwatt. The big difference between this... Okay, it's only 200 milliwatt, but it does now support smart audio, which means you're going to be able to communicate with it over the air. Now, that is the downside to that. But, yeah, great frame. Just a solid frame there. So I started rebuilding it. The arms are ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. I do have a Speedy B frame coming, I believe. Let me just have a look. I believe it's a Speedy B, and I think it might be this, which is the FS225, so it may end up going in there if it fits. If it fits. It works well, but props are in view. Yeah, this looks a pretty solid piece of kit, this. It's just, okay, it's got a gap for DJI. Just, is there enough space to get this funny shape in? And yeah, in some ways, it should have been a bit wider. It should have been a bit wider. So I believe I've got one of these on its way. So that'll be a nice option. Okay, it's designed for DJI. Looking at what they've included there. But I think we should have some options to be able to get it in. At the back on that. So, yeah, you know, it's a 225. So it's nice. Yeah. If not, I may end up getting another Roamer F5. I might just get if that doesn't come, I might order another Roamer F5. That is a really nice looking frame. To be honest, this is. They've got some new antennas out as well. Speedy B have, and they've got this new frame, and it's got this really chunky front end. It looks absolutely solid, similar to my Armaton. You know, my Armaton is, you know, my 6-inch is the one I fly a lot of the time. Is my 6-inch. That thing's got a titanium front end. book basher frame. So the plan is I'm going to have a permanent Sharkbite build now. It's at the stage where it's developed massively, and genuinely it has. Okay, and I'm going to say right now, it still isn't a direct competition for DJI for the long range guys. Okay, so we still want a 1000 milliwatt transmitter and a better camera. Now the camera is coming. The camera is just around the corner. If they can get the 1200 milliwatts out, 1000 milliwatts, I think it's really then going to get interesting. Really, really then going to get interesting. And, you know, if you look at what was in the last update, right, there's a lot of really good stuff in here. You know, you've got to give them credit, right, that they are taking feedback from the community. Now, I don't know, is this Sharkbite or DiviMath? Whichever one it is, they are still taking good feedback. So if I go to HT0, let me just find it, because it's HT0. And I did talk about this on my video the other day, but Carl, I have had some messages back and forth with Carl, someone else I managed to upset. And if we look, new looking OSD. Now I haven't seen this yet, but better fonts on the OSD. And it's got, remember, it's got canvas mode support. Sharkbite has canvas mode. Auto scan switch off, so that's a nice one. Added VRX OSD, so recording status RSI for each VRX antenna, very nice. Added pit mode, really nice feature for the racing guys. Change record mode to auto or manual, nice feature, people like that. Smart audio, so now it's got smart audio support, which means you can now control it. You know, you can now control it indeed. Which is really, really good. You've got movie recording format, added RF power manual calibration, added OSD off option. So there's lots of stuff. Lots and lots of stuff there, which is really good. So, you know, they're taking feedback. They're taking feedback. Okay, just going to catch up on the chat, guys, before I move on. That's cold. That's the obligatory chair shilling shot. Yeah, and that's what we need next. All that Sharkbite needs now is good evening, late joiner Ken. How are you? Right, let me just bring everything up. Good evening, 93 of you. Good evening, everyone. I hope you're all safe and well. If you are new here, welcome to the channel. If you're not a subscriber, hit the button. Don't forget to give us a like as well. We've got, how many likes we had? How many likes? We had 39, 40, 40, 40. Let's get it to 50. Come on, let's get it to 50. Do I like pineapple on my pizza? I don't really like pizza. I'm not a big pizza fan, mate. Okay, let me just catch up. Because the hardware won't support it. Yeah, good evening, M. How are you? Right, let me get back up. Competition would be good all round. Anyone tried the frame from Chris Rossi yet? No, not me. Let me just go back up because I missed it some. Adapter, 2020 on top of the flight stack. A very real possibility, but it's a low height. It's dropped, so we're gonna have to see. Ghost FPV lad flying with Fpv Frames. He loves it. I'm tempted myself. Really nice looking frame, isn't it? Sort of frame is ping pong bar. Mount it like a sofa. I do like that idea. Hot glue or Velcro it to the outside. We need Sharkbite to up their game 100%. And to be fair to them, they are. Not so sure about Fat Shark because they don't reply to my emails, but Carl at DiviMath is. Sorry for I haven't tried the Nick Rosser frame. Chris Rosser frame. Sorry, not Nick. I was reading Nick as I said the name. Diatone. Who designed it? It's over to fit. Peppermint Pilot. That's the question. Sharkbite's breakup scares the crap out of me. It comes from nowhere. That is the only concern, isn't it? Grumpy's DJI has all of my money now. I think they have everyone's money. Canvas mode. Pineapple on pizza. Approved. We got into pineapple. Cheer shot, cheer shot. What's my favourite FC stack? Right. For a long time, I use Brain FPV. I generally always use Hobbywing ESCs. Okay? Always generally use Hobbywing ESCs on my stacks. But I have been a fan of the Brain FPV flight controllers. However, I have just bought this. I haven't tried them. I've not really done a lot with Acorn. So I've just got the Hobbywing full stack, so we'll give that a shot. But I've got about 5 Brain FPVs. I've always liked. I've got a Radix 2, an RE1. But I just couldn't resist this, right? And this is nothing against Brain FPV, right? But I was going to get another Radix 2. So Radix 2. Let me just search for that in the UK. So I was going to get a Radix 2. Not the power board. So the Radix 2 is 60 quid on its own. Right, Hobby RC. So, Hobby RC, it was out of stock, but the Radix 2 is 60 quid on its own. And then if we go to ESCs, and if I'd have got the Hobbywing, because I generally like to use Hobbywing ones, and they're plug and play, 40 amp, another 40 pounds. You know, we'd have been talking 110 pounds all in for the flight controller and ESC. And I usually go for the 60 amp. I don't need it, but I usually go for the 60. However, this flight controller kit, right? Where is it? Down here. You got the I almost bought one of the diatone stacks. I've not tried them. But this stack, where is it? Here we go. It wasn't the 60, it's the 40. It's £56. It's the same price as the flight controller on its own. It's a no-brainer. It really is a no-brainer. I was tempted on the Mambas. You know, there's normally good talk on them. There's so much choice now in there. There's too much choice. You know, but yeah, so I was going to get a Radix 2. Would love to have got another one. I just can't warrant 40 quid more. I can emphasize with that. I got more motors. I ended up with more waxing motors, the same as these. Where's the box with it all in? So we ended up with. I think did I speak about this last week? Why do I feel like I spoke about this once? We've got. Was it last night? I'm sure I've done this. 2208s, which are the 2450 kVs, the normal Xings for my flight. Great motors. I have Edge TX. I haven't flown it, but I have got it. And then I ordered some of the Menace antennas as well. I've spoke about this. I don't know why. I got deja vu. I think it was on last night's live stream. Friday nights. Yeah, I thought I had for those on Fridays. So, but yeah, for those who weren't here Friday, Sony, focus, Sony. Oh, it's that box that's done it. That box threw the focus out. But yeah, so we're gonna give that a shot. You know, that is a no-brainer. At the cost, that's a no-brainer. But I usually use Brain Radix. I love the Afro ACs all in. Yeah, there really isn't a lot bad right now, is there? It's got Bluetooth on the SpeedyB F7V2. Has it? So, should we have a look at that? So the SpeedyB, is it that? Is that the F7V2? Wireless? Wireless firmware flasher, not so sure about that. That is a real nice stack. So, flash the latest firmware wirelessly with built-in Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. I do like the idea of having you can adjust the PAD set. So can you connect to it via Betaflight? So has anyone here used the Betaflight app on their phone? It's really good. I do like Edge TX. I've been playing with it on the bench. Works really well. Not flown it yet. Tune your quad. Here you go. And they have their own app. Do they? Okay. Because I've been using the Betaflight app as well. Flasher works well. That's interesting. Oh man, I can see me. That's interesting. That's real interesting. Look how short that stack is. 14 mil to the base. Wow. That is nice and low. BMP 280, 6000. That's really quite nice, isn't it? Oh, you got it. Oh, I know, Bruce, in the early days. That is really quite nice, isn't it? I've not seen the flight controller. Do they have an iOS app or is it only Android? I can see me ordering one of them for the stack. If the SpeedyB comes, I can see me ordering one of them. Is that available in the UK? Let's have a look. Hobby RC. It's not bad price either. Look at that. 79. So it is dearer than that because that was 56. And that's a lot more features, isn't it? For like 20 quid. I wouldn't mind that. For the money, that's only 20 quid more. It's got a barrel on board as well. Oh, okay. I can see me ending up ordering one of these. I really can. Okay, we'll have to see where that goes. Right, I'm going to catch up with the chat now, guys. Good evening, Ken. Solly OGB cables. To be fair, though, doing USB programming is really easy with the Betaflight app. If you've used the Betaflight app, it really does work well anyway. I do think they're offering something, mind. You've got that wireless connectivity in an app. 56 quid, not bad. But to be honest, the USB isn't bad. If you've used the USB on Android, it works really well. With the Betaflight app, it's like a god saver for tuning. It really is. I'm building a Mike Bergman. I'm building a 6-inch Banggood FC as we speak. That's cool. Flasher works well. Rubing, let me just get back up. Might do a SpeedyB build, says Ghost FPV. I wouldn't mind having a look at that. If you do, send me some pictures. David, I use the SpeedyB app. Works perfectly. Fine have also. Can you? That's cool. Betaflight app is very handy. It really is really handy. Speedy B for the win. Absolutely. Have the V1 in his class. Very nice. I burnt out 3 minim OSDs trying to get OSD on my first quad. Manix FPV. Sounds like you got voltage in the wrong place there, mate. OTG cables and Speedy B Vision 2. Who actually tweaks PIDs? I have had to on my 6-inch. I'm still getting huge amounts of prop wash and some strange vibrations on my 6-inch. You've seen it in some of the footage that I put out recently. My 6-inch hasn't been happy at all. I stuck up on the Speedy B F7 V2. I love that FC. I can't be bothered. No, I did some tuning this week with the filters and stuff and black box. I was getting really lots of vibes, especially on 6-inch props. I've gone back down to 5-inch props on my 6-inch build, and it's flying so much better. It's ridiculous. If it's just my Parkinson's. But Bruce, you commented it. I was getting lots of vibration on both the RunCam review and the original videos that I've recorded on the Polar. That was at the same time I happened to switch over to brand new 6-inch props. Brand spanking, absolutely fine. And I've tried 2 sets and it's vibrating like hell on 6 inches. So I've gone back down to 5s on the 6-inch quad. It's semantics. It's not a massive difference. For the type of flying I'm doing with it, it's not a major problem. It's a bit less floaty now, but it's cut the vibes right down. So I don't know what's going on with it. I tried soft mounting the motors and that went wrong. I didn't like that at all. So I've gone back to hard mount. I've checked the motors. There's no, I don't know. I'm wondering if one of them's off. I can produce more jello. Yeah, it's weird, but it's why I'm getting it is the interesting thing. Now I've also soft mounted the camera. Now I made some TPU mounts. And that seems to have made it worse, not better. So that needs some more work. But that's my test 6-inch build that I just slope about with, Check your motor for vibes with a laser. Bounce it off the motor. Well, I did all the tests on Betaflight, where you spin the motors up individually and you can look at the X, Y, and Z values. That's a cool trick, Steve. I haven't tried that. And one of them's a little bit higher. But there's nothing scary, but there's a nice amount of vibe on the frame. I don't know if there's a resonance in the frame. It's an Armaton Chameleon TI6. Try gummies. Yeah, I made some TPU mounts and it didn't like that at all. Have you flown the 6-inch? No, I haven't. They're pretty great for 6-inch props. I'll check them out because I'd like to go back to 6 inches on it because I get a few more minutes flight time on it that way. I have Dud I Flight Zongi Pros Jello time. I think I have Dud. That's interesting. Having a biscuit. Yeah. 7-inch for the win. Definitely. I wouldn't mind building an 8. I do like some big quads. So since I've gone back down to 5-inch, most of the jello is gone. No, it's a Fox's. It's a Fox's something. Okay, well, I chomp this down. We'll have a look at a couple of other things I'm going to show you guys. Now, the next thing I'm going to show you, and I'll still answer some questions, guys. Cool, Rubens. Right, let me get this out of the way. Now, for the FPV, guys, you're not going to... This really isn't that interesting to you because you're not going to mount this to an FPV drone. But I'm going to show you this quickly because this is very cool. Now, there'll be a video coming up on this. Now, this is the new lightweight SF45. Now, if you don't know what this is a rotating LiDAR. Let me just go to the overhead just to show you. Now, this is going to be going on the rover, an Ardra pilot. Now, this is a rotating LiDAR that can rotate 180 degrees. That's going to be on for rover use as well as Ardrocopter, that allows for things like object avoidance, object sensing, as well as distance measurement as well. Now, I'm going to bring up their software because I can actually show you this in use. So let me just go back over there. You can see him there. So what I'm going to do is plug him in, and I'm going to show you this because this is going to kick in. Now, what I have to be careful of is I can't point this at the camera because it's an actual laser. And we all know that's not a good idea. So, I plugged him in. 1 second. Let me just move some stuff out of the way so it can do its thing. I'm also going to put some stuff here. So, let me put it there. And I just want to make sure... No, that's not good. Right, we should be okay there. I'm just trying to make sure it doesn't go for the camera. Because it will end badly. So we should be fine. Okay, so if I put this up on the desktop to show you guys. Okay, if I go down to here, let's make this all a bit bigger. Okay, so this is the software, which is the Lightwear SF45. That's interesting. I've kicked it in, and it's now doing weird stuff. That's weird. Let's try that again, shall we? That was a bit weird. Good. Right. That's kicked in. Doesn't look like it's doing anything on the camera. And if we now go to scanning, and what you're seeing now is the device scanning around the room. And what you're seeing is the LiDAR rotate. So you guys can see in the little image. So if I just go back to full sec clean, you can see it there, look, rotating back and forth. And then going back, you can see it picking up. So what it's doing now is actually picking up the shape of the room. So what you're seeing here is a 3D representation of what's being picked up. So, for instance, if I move backwards, you can now see that the bit, now if I move back towards it, you can see this bit there, me coming in back towards it again. And you can now see that was my hand where the mouse was. So you can see if I go back out, that's like actually scanning around the room. Now, you can do some really cool stuff on this. What's that blob looking thing? You can then just choose some things like, for instance, if we change the speed down to 200, you can make it a lot slower, which will give a much more accurate representation of the room. So, for instance, these things here are the boxes off camera there. There's a box there and a box there. So if I just put them there, just so you guys can see them. So now it's scanning past the box over to the wall over there. It's coming towards me now. Here we go. It's pointing at me. So that's me. That bump area there, that's my arm and my mouse. If I put them over there out the way, put that over there. You can then see, so it's coming around this way now. It's pointing over the bench over there. It's going to come to me now. So that's me. And that's coming back out. And then that's it going around the room. And then it's going to hit the box any second. Yep, that's the box. Going back out towards the other box. And then that's it. So, yeah, that's the thing later. Now, this now the vertical, it can go plus or minus 160, I believe. Now you can slow it right down even further. You can slow it down to actually, believe it or not, 2000, where it barely moves. The pace it moves at is incredibly slow at that point. But the data you get is far more accurate. Oh, I can see a question. We'll have a look on a minute. But yeah, so I just thought I'd share this with you guys. Now, this is fully supported in ArduPilot. So to give you guys an idea, it's the SF45. It's this lightweight laser here. I need this for bendy ruler. And then it is fully supported in ArduPilot, and I'm going to be setting it up in the next couple of weeks. It's a very cool piece of gear indeed. Bringing it back up, you can see it now moving much, much slower. Right, let's have a look. I can see a question. Well, and the other thing is this software, you can move around. Look, you can go in. Now, it's not a 3D view. Remember, it is just picking up, so it turns even faster. And then, or you can drop the speed right down. If I got a 5 is the lowest you can go, and you can see it banging round then, full pace. But obviously, the faster it moves, now it's actually at full pelt. And you can now see that it's much less accurate in the way it works. Okay, so I just thought I'd share that with you guys. Quite a really interesting piece of kit. It really is. Okay, let me just shut off the eye-blinding laser a minute. So I'm going to be doing a video on this in the next couple of weeks. So I can see some comments. So someone's got my V2 goggles won't update from the DJI 0603 on Windows or PC. Any help? Okay, so on Mac and PC. Right, ignore Mac. Mac doesn't work properly. So PC's your best bet. So are they V1 or V2 goggles? V1, you said. V2s. Okay, so it doesn't show you, it won't show me either of the modes. I can connect. So what happens when you plug in to Assistant 2 for FPV? And make sure it is Assistant 2 for FPV. It has to be that version. Does it show the goggles? V2 goggles. So when you plug it in, it should say goggles V2. And I can show you what it should do. He says, when he finds this, where's my V2s gone? I've had them out today. And it says 0% on transmit. So it shows connects. So what firmware are they currently on? There's no FPV option. 0603. 101. Let me just get this right in my head. What version? 0603. Let me just DJI FPV. Let me just get the versions right in my head. Now, although they're V2s, so it's in FPV air unit mode, correct? And there's no option to switch into FPV drone mode. That's the wrong FPV. Let me just go. I just want to make sure I get it right in my head. Downloads. Release notes. Correct. Okay. 0606 060 Ah, okay. So you're on a version that doesn't exist because they've been shipped with that intermediate version, which doesn't work. Do they allow you to downgrade? Is there a version showing that allows you to downgrade. No drone, that's fine. Does it let you go? Is there a different version of firmware available to downgrade to? Nope. So only version you have is 0603, and it'll give you the option to upgrade to 0606. And it has two options to upgrade, 0600 and 0606, I'm guessing. 0606 has two options to upgrade to. Yeah, I've seen that before. Okay. Have you tried another USB-C cable? And none of those two options work, correct? Yeah, you've tried a different USB-C cable. Whatever one you're using, the DJI one they give you is crap. Don't use it. Have you tried your own one? It won't. It shouldn't be the driver with DJI. It should just work. It'll be a quirk in the modules in the goggles, is what it will be. Should I try a USB to USB-C? Yeah, any normal USB-C good data cable. Try another one. And it just sits at 0% transmitting, yeah? Yeah. Have you got an email address I can send you something on? So, what are the two versions of firmware it shows? Yeah, as long as it's a data, not just a power. It's got to be a good one. What are the two firmware versions it shows available? I'm just intrigued on that a minute. Yeah, I just like to know. But I'm going to send you something you can try. There's no guarantees, but you can try. I just want to check. Let me check on my side as well. 1 second. When I find my V2s. Where are my V2s gone? Which one of you guys have stolen my V2 goggles? I have them. Okay. Let's see if we can fix this one for this gentleman. Any other questions, guys? We need a battery. We need a USB-C cable. Good quality one. And a USB extender. Let's have a look. Let's see. Different USB port, definitely. But the thing is, if it's downloading the firmware, it's detecting the goggles. And he's tried two different computers. Is it the same problem on both computers as well? So, and another question, if you have an SD card in the goggles, take it out. Don't leave an SD card in there. 1 sec for the firmware versions. Good. I just want to check it against the... I want to just check if something still works that I have. That's all. This might not be a solution, but it's about the only one I can give you to try. If this doesn't work, you'll need to send them into DJI. But it'll be a... The chances are, if you've tried two computers, it's exactly the same on all. It will be a corruption in the firmware on one of the modules of the goggles, and it's not letting it transmit. As long as you've done cables, firmware, and this. But let's try something. Assistant 2 for FPV series. And just make sure you do have the right Assistant 2 for FPV. Has firmware 0606 and 0604. And what version is your Assistant 2 for FPV? Bottom right hand corner, it should tell you. 2.11. Okay. Question, what mode do you recommend for a new 4S build generally? I fly the Xing motors. I'll show you now. They're the ones I use on 4S. All of the iFlight Xings. 2208s, I think they are, off the top of my head. I use them all the time. They're a good little motor. Ink FPV. Right, okay. So let me just check something. Let me log out of this because I want to log in with a different account. So you're in FPV drone mode. So am I, which is good. You got them from Best Buy weeks ago. Right, let me just open up Messenger and find something. I can't post this publicly, but I can send you an email with it on. But I don't know if it still works. 2 seconds. Log in. I just want to see what firmware versions it shows. I hate these damn verification codes, don't you? I got it wrong, allegedly. I hate them. We'll get there. Oh, God, what's this doing? Right. Unless this has now died. Oh, no, it has worked. Getting into these is a freaking nightmare. Right, okay. So, I just want to try something. Exing, Emacs or Exings are good. Yeah, they're good cameras. Everybody wants to buy me. I have 3 Nebula canvas mode. Got them Best Buy weeks ago. New camera, new Galaxy is good as the original. Not talking about the Vistas. It's the new camera. It's very, very close to the DJI. I'm not going to say it's out and out identical, but it's very close. Very close. Most of the belief is it's the same, but it's close enough. No, I'm not sure this is going to help you. This isn't going to help you. If it doesn't work with another cable, I would send them into DJI. Okay, the question I got for you is this. Do you need the firmware update? Is there anything wrong? Because if there isn't, hang back and wait. Because the chances are there'll be a firmware update that lets you use it. Chances are there will be a firmware update that does let you use it at some point in the not too distant future. Sometimes these things are a bit of a nightmare at times with the firmware updates. The fact it just sits there transmitting Yeah, I thought I might be able to share something to go to a downgrade back further, but it's not going to work. Are you having any issues? Because if you're not having any issues, I wouldn't worry about it. That's what I would say. Did you need to roll back the Vista upgrade goggles? No, doesn't affect it. No, there should be nothing. The goggles is completely independent because the Vista isn't even on when there's no need to touch the ear units at all. It'll have no effect whatsoever. Definitely try another USB cable though. Just try another USB cable and just keep trying. FPGAs are very, very thing. That's a weird fault, that. That is a weird fault. It's got to be something that'll... I'm just trying to think, is there anything else to try? How's your charger going? Is the P10 right? Yeah, I got the review on the charger coming up this week. Absolutely fine. No issues at all. I'm still waiting on one of the new ones. I'm just going to send someone something in a minute. I'm going to just see if I can find out anything on this gent's issues. Let me just check that is correct before I send it. Yeah, it's a weird issue. Non-transmitting normally means it's a comms issue. Very weird. Yeah, that's the biggest issue. That's the only issue with the P10. It can't discharge. I love the charger. The two complaints I have on the P10, I do say this in the review, is it should have a LiPo storage option, unless you're going to tell me I've missed it. But to change the voltage to, say, 3.85, and I don't mean to discharge because you can't discharge, but if you want to just put the packs to storage voltage, you've got to go into the menu and find 3.85 volt from the bloody list, rather than it just have a, you know when the voltage is, the currents, it has like the last ones used. I wish it did that on the charging as well for the end voltage. Because if you want it to end at, say, 3.85 volts, so you've flown the packs down and you just want to top them back up to storage voltage, you've got to go into the menu and go up and down a little bit. Yeah. And the second issue I had with it was it didn't have a discharge. That's about the only two complaints I've got. The P10 can't discharge, but it can storage. Thank you, Ink FPV. A massive, massive thank you, my friend. Really do appreciate it. P20 even puts the kettle on. I still need more because I'm looking for more chargers. I've got my bat box set up and everything now. I'm going to be talking about that very soon. As well, we're going to be talking about that one shortly. Watch this space. It's Tesla cells. Okay. Just reading up the chat. Well, look, guys. That's pretty much everything I'm going to cover for tonight. Tesla for that extra spark. Yes. Right, guys, look. We are heading towards midnight. So I said I was going to do 1 hour, and we've nearly gone 2. Unbelievable. Every single time. I want to thank everyone for spending some time with me. What did we get to on the likes? 60, 61. Let's get to 65 before it's over. Look, I want to thank everyone for spending some time with me once again tonight. I want to thank everyone for all of the kind comments and everything over the last week. I massively appreciate it. I really, really do. I want to try and get back to some normality now for the next period. From on the channel point of view, you know, less fury and more content. I think we need to do proper content. There'll be some stuff to talk about in the next couple of weeks. There's the Spectrum Analyzer videos going up. That won't be everyone's cup of tea, but that's a really good piece of kit. Less DJ. I think more positive. We're going to have less problems. I'm hoping the worst of the problems is around the corner. Let's put it that way. But the FPV build goes up Monday. The first part of the FPV build. The Spectrum Analyzer. Sorry. No, it doesn't. The Sharkbite air unit goes up. The FPV builds later, and then the Spectrum Analyzer. The battery video is done. It just needs to be scheduled. I'm only putting out 2 videos a week at the moment, so I'm not going to put 2 more out. And then hopefully, then I've got this to come, the LiDAR, the RF radios. I've got to get that done. So yeah, simple as that. So look, guys, you look after yourself. Stay safe. I'm going to find the end button. Thank you for spending some time with me. If you are new here, please do hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to hit the little bell as well. Thank you to everyone who's donated tonight on the Super Chats as well. Massively, massively appreciated. Thank you for all of your time, and I will speak to you guys soon.